My name is Daniel Carter. I'm not telling this story because I want attention. I'm telling it because pretending it didn't happen stopped working a long time ago. For years, I convinced myself it was stress. Too many night shifts, too much coffee, not enough sleep. That explanation held up during the day, but at night, it fell apart. Because some memories don't fade. They wait. I worked night security for almost 7 years. Warehouses, storage facilities, distribution centers. If you've never worked nights, you probably think it's calm, quiet, peaceful. Sometimes it is, but most nights feel like the world has paused and you're the only one still moving. Every sound feels closer. Every shadow lasts longer than it should. I liked night work because no one bothered me. No managers breathing down my neck, no coworkers, no small talk. Just me, the cameras, and the slow ticking of time. I thought being alone meant being safe. I didn't realize how wrong that was. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember it clearly because I was halfway through reheating leftovers when my phone buzzed. It was my supervisor, Rick. He always sounded tired, like a man who'd been awake too long and stopped caring why. "Daniel," he said, "I need you to cover a new site tonight." I leaned against the kitchen counter and sighed. There was a pause, not long, but long enough. "Old government storage facility," he said. "Outside Hawthorne, desert side." That made me stop chewing. Government facilities aren't like normal jobs. They're leftovers. Places built for reasons no one wants to talk about anymore. "What happened to the last guard?" I asked. Rick cleared his throat. "Contract ended." It wasn't an answer. I could hear paperwork shuffling on his end, like he was avoiding the conversation. "What kind of site is it?" I pressed. "Easy," he said quickly. "No patrols, no walking the property, just sit in the control room and watch the cameras." No patrols. That should have been my warning. In security work, patrols are the job. If you're told not to leave the room, it usually means someone doesn't want you seeing something. But the pay was higher than my usual rate, and I was behind on rent. "All right, I'll cover it." Rick exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. "Good. Just clock in on time." The call ended. I left early that night. The drive took almost an hour, but it felt longer. Once I left the city, everything vanished. Street lights disappeared, cell signal dropped to 1 bar. The desert stretched out endlessly on both sides of the road, flat and dark, like the earth itself had gone quiet. The facility appeared suddenly. One moment there was nothing but road. The next, a low concrete structure rose out of the sand like it had been buried and forgotten. No sign, no company name, no lights except one floodlight above a steel door. I parked and sat in my car longer than I meant to. The place didn't look dangerous, it just felt wrong, like it wasn't finished being left alone. I grabbed my bag and stepped out. The air was cold and dry, biting at my lungs. When I unlocked the door and stepped inside, the smell hit me immediately. Old dust, metal, stale air that hadn't moved in a long time. The hallway led straight to the control room. It was smaller than I expected. A desk bolted to the floor, a worn office chair, 6 monitors mounted on the wall. Each screen showed a different section of the facility. Empty hallways, storage bays stacked with sealed crates. No movement anywhere. On the desk sat a thick black binder. I ignored it at first. I clocked in, set my bag down, sat in the chair. The chair creaked under my weight, loud in the silence. I told myself it was just another shift. The first few hours passed slowly. Nothing moved on the cameras, no alarms, no noises, just the hum of electricity and the faint buzz of the monitors. Around midnight, I noticed something strange. Not on the screens, in myself. I kept adjusting in my chair like I couldn't get comfortable. My shoulders felt tight. My jaw ached from clenching without realizing it. It felt like being watched. I checked the monitors again, still empty. I laughed quietly at myself. Old buildings make noise. Your brain fills in gaps when there's nothing else to do. I took a sip of coffee and leaned back. At 1:07 a.m., one of the screens flickered. Camera 4. I leaned forward. I didn't remember that hallway being there. It was narrow, with concrete walls and a single light at the far end. The light flickered softly, casting long shadows. Then the sound came through. Breathing. Slow. Deep. Close. Not walking, not moving, just breathing, like someone standing inches from the camera. My chest tightened. I reached for the audio controls and muted the feed. The breathing stopped instantly, not faded out, stopped. That bothered me more than the sound itself. I stared at the screen, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. That's when I finally reached for the binder. Most of it was boring. Inspection schedules, equipment checks, routine shift notes. Then the handwriting changed. The neat printed text gave way to uneven pen strokes. Letters slanted, lines crowded together. Someone had written fast, under pressure. One entry caught my eye. Audio event, 1:06 a.m. Operator failed to mute. Result, panic response. I frowned. The time was too close to now to be coincidence. I flipped the page. Another entry. Audio event, 1:12 a.m. Subject spoke the operator's name. I felt a chill run through my arms. I checked the name listed. There wasn't one, just the sentence. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the monitors. This had to be old. Different guards, different nights. I told myself that again and again. Still, I closed the binder and pushed it aside. I didn't want to read anymore. At 1:29 a.m., the audio feed turned on by itself. I didn't touch the controls. This time, there was no breathing. There was a voice. Daniel. My name, spoken calmly, not angry, not threatening, like someone calling you from another room. I slammed the mute button so hard my finger hurt. Every monitor went black. The hum of electricity stopped. The room fell into complete silence. Then, one by one, the screens came back on, except now there were 7 feeds. I stared at the wall, confused. There had only been 6 cameras. The 7th screen showed the control room. My desk, my chair, me, sitting there, not moving, not blinking. I stood up so fast the chair scraped loudly across the floor. On the screen, the version of me stayed perfectly still. Then it smiled. I don't know how long I stood there staring at that screen. Seeing yourself from the outside does something to your brain. It feels wrong in a way you can't explain. On the monitor, the version of me kept smiling. Not wide, not exaggerated, just enough to feel intentional. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. I looked back up. The screen showed the chair I just pushed back, except on the screen, the chair hadn't moved. The other me was still sitting there, perfectly still, eyes locked straight ahead. I swallowed hard and reached for the keyboard. I didn't know what I was trying to do. Switch cameras, shut the system down, anything. The keyboard didn't respond. None of the controls did. Then the desk phone rang. The sound made me flinch so hard my shoulder hit the wall. I stared at the phone. It rang again and again. I picked it up. "Security," I said, and hated how thin my voice sounded. A woman answered. She spoke slowly, like she was choosing her words carefully. "Daniel," she said, "you're not supposed to be standing." My stomach dropped. "What?" I asked. "You're off schedule," she continued. "You need to sit back down." "I'm on my shift," I said. "I just clocked in." There was a pause. Then she sighed. "No," she said gently. "You clocked in yesterday." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "That's not possible." "You didn't leave," she said. "You never do." The line went dead. I stood there holding the receiver, listening to nothing. The monitors flickered. Every screen switched to the same hallway, Camera 4. The narrow one. The light at the far end was brighter now. The door at the end of the hallway was closed. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Getting closer. I backed away from the desk until my shoulders hit the wall. The binder slid off the desk and hit the floor with a heavy thud. It fell open. Pages fluttered. I didn't want to look. I did anyway. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. Men and women. Different ages, different uniforms, all sitting in the same chair. My chair. Each photo had a note written beneath it. Did not complete final shift. I flipped through them with shaking hands. Some of the faces looked tired, some confused, some terrified. None of them were smiling, until the last photo. Mine. It was new, clear, taken from the 7th camera. The handwriting beneath it wasn't rushed like the others. It was neat, careful, pending. The footsteps on the monitor stopped. The door at the end of the hallway began to open, slowly. Something stepped into view. At first, it looked human. Too human. It stood upright, arms at its sides, but the longer I looked, the more wrong it felt. Its movements were too smooth, too controlled, like it was imitating the idea of a person. When it spoke, it didn't use sound. The words formed inside my head. "You turned the lights on," it said. "You watched." The walls began to hum. Not shaking, humming. Low and deep, like a generator starting somewhere far below the building. "I don't understand," I said out loud, though my mouth felt dry. "You don't need to," the voice replied. "You just need to stay." The door behind me clicked. Unlocked. I looked over my shoulder. The exit door was open. Cold desert air rushed in. I looked back at the monitors. The thing on the screen tilted its head. "You can leave," it said. "But then who keeps us here?" That's when it finally made sense. This place wasn't guarded. It was contained, and containment required someone watching. I didn't answer. I ran. The hallway outside the control room stretched longer than it should have. Every door looked the same. My footsteps echoed. Twice. Once from behind me, once from ahead. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. The humming grew louder. The lights flickered. I burst through the exit door and fell into the sand. Cold air filled my lungs. The sky was starting to change color. Morning. I lay there for a long time, waiting for something to grab me. Nothing did. When I finally stood up, the building was silent, still, empty, like it had never been used at all. I drove home on autopilot, didn't turn on the radio, didn't check my phone. I didn't sleep. I called Rick as soon as the sun came up, straight to voicemail. I never heard from him again. The company number stopped working 2 days later. The job disappeared, like it had never existed. I quit security after that. Found a day job in an office building. Normal hours, normal people. For a while, things felt okay. I told myself it was over. Then one night, months later, my phone buzzed. A notification. Security feed, live. I didn't remember installing any app like that. I opened it. 6 camera angles. That same control room. Someone was sitting in my chair, watching the screens, not blinking. Then he looked up and smiled. I stared at the screen until my phone dimmed. 6 camera angles, that same control room, that same chair, and someone sitting in it. My chair. He didn't move, didn't blink, just watched. I locked the phone and tossed it onto the couch like it might burn me. For a long time, I just sat there, listening to my own breathing, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. That scared me more than anything, because silence after something like that doesn't feel like relief. It feels like a pause. I didn't go to work the next day. I called in sick, even though I wasn't. I needed time to think, to understand. I replayed everything in my head, the binder, the cameras, the voice, and one question kept coming back. Why was I allowed to leave? Everyone else in those photos hadn't. They didn't complete their final shift, but I did. Or at least, I thought I did. That night, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the control room, the monitors, the 7th camera. Around 2 a.m., my phone vibrated. I froze. Another notification. Security feed, live. I didn't open it. I couldn't. Instead, I noticed something I hadn't before. A small icon at the bottom of the screen. Location enabled. My stomach tightened. I turned it off. The notification disappeared immediately, like it had been waiting. The next morning, I did something I hadn't planned to do. I drove back. Not all the way inside, just close enough to see it. The desert road was exactly the same. Empty, quiet. But the facility was different. The floodlight above the door was gone. The building looked flatter, like something had been taken out of it. I parked at a distance and sat in my car. The place felt hollow now, not abandoned, finished. I didn't get out. I didn't need to, because suddenly my phone buzzed again. No notification this time. A call. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. "Daniel," a voice said. Not the woman, not the thing. Rick, my supervisor. I hadn't heard his voice in months. "Rick?" I said. "You shouldn't be there," he replied. My throat went dry. "Where are you?" I asked. There was a long pause. Then he spoke quietly. "Still on shift." I hung up. My hands were shaking too badly to hold the phone. That's when I understood something I hadn't before. The building didn't trap people. It didn't need to. It only needed someone to keep watching. The guards weren't victims. They were anchors. I went home. I packed a bag. I told myself I was done running because running hadn't helped. That night, at exactly 1 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Security feed, live. This time, I opened it. The control room was empty. The chair was empty. The monitors were on, but no one was sitting there. Then the 7th camera appeared. It showed my living room, me, standing there holding my phone. The camera angle shifted slightly, like someone adjusting it. A message appeared across the screen. I laughed. It came out sharp and broken. "No," I said out loud. The message changed. Final shift. The lights in my apartment flickered. The hum started. Low, familiar. I felt the same pressure in my chest I'd felt in the facility, the same weight. I realized then what the choice really was. The building didn't want bodies, it wanted continuity. As long as someone was watching, it existed. And now, it didn't need the building anymore. It had learned. I sat down, right there on the couch. The phone grew warm in my hand. The screen filled with static. Then the control room came back. The chair. The desk. I understood what it wanted me to do. And for the first time since this started, I made a decision. I turned the phone face down. The humming grew louder, angrier. The lights went out. I stayed seated, didn't move, didn't watch. Minutes passed. Then silence. Real silence. The kind that doesn't feel like it's waiting. Morning came. Sunlight through the window. Birds outside. Normal sounds. My phone lay dark on the table. No notifications, no calls. Days passed. Then weeks. Nothing happened. I started sleeping again. Smiling again. I thought maybe I'd broken it. 3 months later, I was scrolling through the news during lunch. A small article caught my eye. Former government storage facility fully decommissioned. No details, no explanation, just one line at the end. All monitoring systems permanently disabled. I closed my browser and leaned back in my chair. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. Last night, I got a message. Not a call, not a notification, just text from an unknown number. It said, "Thank you for your service." I deleted it, and nothing else happened. I don't work nights anymore. I don't watch cameras. I don't keep security apps on my phone. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I still feel it, that sense of being observed, not hunted, not threatened, just remembered. Like somewhere, something learned what it meant to be alone and decided it didn't like it. That's my story. I don't expect you to believe it. I barely do myself. But if you ever find yourself working a night shift somewhere that feels too quiet, if you're told not to leave your seat, if you're told just to watch, do yourself a favor. Stand up, turn the lights off, and walk away. Because once something knows you're watching, it never forgets.